All right, excellent afternoon to those who are watching us across the states in Nigeria. Yes, we are actors. I want to say that presenters and actors. When it comes to abuse, you believe there's no way out and there's always a help. There's always a way out. Again, I say welcome to another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. And of course, I remain the convener of this platform, Kike Lomaton. And I have the Real Talk on the platform. Let me start from the colorful man. You look colorful. How you doing, Masha? How's husband?
Sarago. Obrigado. Thank you.
Kike, you look wonderful yourself.
I look stressed, just say it. I have cough, I have cold.
Yeah. Yes, you've got.
You know when there's beauty in stress. Ha!
You just want to
forget about it.
You just want to be stressed too.
I tell you, but I really don't want to be stressed.
We pray that stress goes down, and we also pray that your health recovers very quickly.
Thank you.
Yes, you look good, by the way.
Thank you.
And Dami, you also look good.
Oh my God!
It's a pleasure to be here.
Yeah,
on behalf of the many Nigerians, and PDP has taken Okowa.
Breaking news.
My name is Marshall Anthony Onnoye, and this is the RTWK show. You're welcome.
Good afternoon from everywhere you're getting the privilege to see us today. It's another beautiful, beautiful day. Like I always say, it concerns you, it concerns me. The upliftment of Nigeria. We are Nigerians, and there is no place like home. My name is Damlola Banire. Welcome on the show.
All right. On this day in history segment dates back to 2012. It is about the subsidy, the fraud concerning Farouk Lawan. Let's get more of this historical events in Nigeria. Stay with us. We'll be back in a minute. Many thanks for staying with us on this day in history segment. Let me come to you, Damilola. What's your take on this day in history segment? We're running out of time.
Well, I think that if Nigeria and Nigerians and the people that we have put in the corridors of power, if they actually met out different roles of responsibility, what happened during the subsidy period, it was great responsibility that, okay, this should not be happening. Corruption was involved and some other things. And they felt that, you know what, you need to step down if you cannot be capable of the office that you have been given. So we've seen it, corruption here, corruption there. I hope that one day our leaders can truly be responsible and accountable for whatever they do with our own money.
All right, accountability is the word because it has become a culture in Nigeria where when we put people in the corridor of power, they lack accountability. And it seems as if when you ask them for one, they do it as if they're doing you a favor. It's time for a quick message from our sponsors. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
We started our journey over 7 years ago, connecting travelers to their favorite destinations.
Since then, we have revolutionized how we want our passengers to feel while flying.
That is why we've introduced our brand new Embraer 195 E2 aircraft.
Everyone has a face they need to see.
We are on a mission to add new destinations to our ever-increasing fleet.
Our Boeing 777 will take you on an international journey. Mumbai, Guangzhou, London, Johannesburg.
And now, Airpeace is adding a new destination.
On the 1st of March, Airpeace will begin a new adventure to a brand new destination. Join us as we celebrate our first flight to Dubai International Airport.
Airpeace flies you from all our domestic routes to Dubai from Lagos at no additional cost.
Right, away from our political discussion, on the show today we are swinging into civic and social matters, and of course we are having a real talk around a social epidemic which has crossed so many lines on the most important issues in Nigeria or across the globe, but many have lost their lives, you know, when it comes to seeking justice, and some don't even get to have the justice. However, domestic violence is a prominent one in Nigeria, and as other countries as well all over the world. There are deep cultural belief in Nigeria that it is socially acceptable to hit a woman as a disciplinary measure. Cases of domestic violence are on the eye and show no signs of reduction at all, especially in Nigeria, regardless of the age, the tribe, religion, even social status. And there's an NGO that has reported that 1 in every 3 respondents admitting to being a victim of domestic violence. I'm sure we understand why that is, and the survey also found a nationwide increase in domestic violence in the past 3 years, from 21% to in 2011 and to 30% in 2013. And again, must I emphasize that domestic violence takes many forms, including physical, sexual, emotional, and mental abuse. And traditionally, domestic violence is committed against females. Yes, commonly females. Common forms of violence against women in Nigeria are either rape, acid attack, molestation, wife battling or beating, and of course, we like to corporal punishment. That sounds a little bit odd, but that's the truth. To discuss this crucial issue with us is an expert. So I would like to call her a legal practitioner, Ifedolapo Oladimeji, a partner with Posec Associates. I hope I pronounced that properly. Let's get to see her profile. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, many thanks for staying with us again. Of course, we have Ifedolapo from our Abuja studio. How are you doing today, Ife? Are you there? Can you hear me? Hello, Ife, can you hear me? All right, let's go on a quick break and try to reconnect with our audio. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, while we're still trying to connect to our guests from our Abuja studio, I think it's important for us to just banter a little bit about this. I know domestic violence is something that's cut across the country. Dami, let me come to you first. With all that has happened thus far in our country, Nigeria to be precise, with a lot of people who have lost their lives, we've seen quite a number of partners that are actually behind bars today. What do you think that the constitution is not doing right, despite all the laws that are being in place, even though I know that there are some states that have not actually jumped on some of the acts that are on board now? What's your take on this, Dami?
For me, I think that I would always say our judiciary system is quite slow, because if a lot of people who have complained, Marshall, have gotten justice, it will deter some other people from going into it. I mean, I had a case that I had referred on this platform where a young girl was brought and her father consistently was raping her. I mean, at the end of the day, yeah, she was 11 and he's been raping her since 9. She came to my house, I saw her.
Our guest back now?
Okay, yeah, we have our guest now. Again, it's a pleasure to have you, Ifedolapo Oladimeji. Are you there now? Can you hear me loud and clear?
Okay.
All right, fantastic. I think it's still a little bit faint. But if you can hear me, one of the ways of curbing SGBV, the risk in Nigeria, is about domesticating the violence against persons. That's Act 2015, and it was enacted in President Jonathan's regime. I remember vividly that was one of the last laws that he had to put in place. But till date, the law is still struggling to be domesticated in 17 states. How are we handling this issue differently? What's the difference thus far from your own perspective?
Very copious law, very detailed in itself, and came on board at such a right time to address the vacuum and the lacuna in existing extant laws that didn't address the issue of sexual-based violence to a great extent. And it's been enacted since 2015, as you rightly mentioned, but sadly we have about just 22 states as of March 2021 that has domesticated that law. So we still have a number of other states that have yet to domesticate the law. And it gives a bit of concern because seeing the provisions of the acts and how vividly it addresses the issue of domestic violence and gender-based violence generally, one would think that a lot of other states should have taken the bull by the horn and domesticate these laws and ensure that we begin with the implementation of the laws, because for the most part, enactment of these laws and having them already in our legislation is one thing. Having them as legal instruments is one thing. But having them being implemented is another ballgame entirely, and that's where we have to start from. And so I personally feel a bit pained that as of today, a few states are yet to domesticate that law. We have Borno, we have Gombe, we have Kebbi, we have Kano, we have Kaduna, we have Sokoto, we have River State, we have even Imo. In those states, these are states that are yet to domesticate that law that happens to be an all-comprising legal instrument addressing the issue of gender-based violence and sexual violence generally.
If we're saying 17 states are yet to domesticate the law, I think that under the Constitution of Nigeria, we are supposed to be unified by the law. But looking at this capacity, looking at these statistics now, so to speak, is there a form of religious or traditional or cultural play coming to stand against the unification of these laws? Because if you have mentioned about some northern states, and we still have some southern states who I believe should be more exposed to have domesticated and enshrined these laws, what are the tenets that are actually standing against unification of these laws?
Absolutely, I agree with you, you're correct. To a very large extent, we have deep-rooted stereotypes and religious barriers. We have cultural stereotypes that have enshrine themselves in the system that we operate in Nigeria. And some of the systems and these stereotypes and these cultural impediments have come and are still existing to fight the law and to fight the emergence of the law to addressing certain issues that are sexual-based, gender violence-based. I'll give you a very good example. Section 55, subsection 1 of the Penal Code, for instance, allows, that applies in northern Nigeria to be specific, allows for women, wives, generally to be beaten as way of correctional, as correctional ways or systems by which you can put them in order, for instance, where there are conflicts. Now, imagine a law like that, recognizing and permitting a husband to physically abuse the wife as a correctional modality. Such a law in itself that has become a system and a culture will certainly fight against the act, for instance, VAT Act coming into existence and taking center place in that kind of region, because the VAT Act clearly states that some of these things have become offenses and you cannot do them and get away with them. So if you cannot do them and get away with them, then it means that there's a law that you're violating if you do them. So imagine a system and a culture deep-rooted and has been enshrined for such a long time. A law such as that will certainly fight against the VAT Act, you know, finding expression in locations and regions like that. So certainly culture, the way and the system that has been in place for such a long time has in one way or the other formed a huge impediment to the implementation of the VAT Act, for instance, in these regions.
Yeah, my follow-up question is there any way that we would have it unified? Are you seeing a possible chance of unification of these laws?
The VAT Act is a federal instrument, right? Being a federal instrument, it behoves on states' legislations to adopt it. Now, we already have the Constitution. The Constitution in itself is the grundam, is the father of the laws. In Section 34 of the Constitution, for instance, Section 34, subsection 1, the Constitution frowns against any form or action that belittles the human person. Now, if the Constitution is the grundam and the VAT Act in itself being one legal instrument that adequately addresses the issue of gender-based violence are in existence, it only takes for other legislations, like other states, for instance, using their local legislations to adopt these laws and make it theirs, domesticate it. Now, we cannot overemphasize the need for continuous enlightenment, awareness, and push for some of these states to adopt the laws. It's the much we can do. The Constitution is unifying in itself, and as stated clearly in Section 34, subsection 1, there are also other sections saying that you cannot touch another person. You cannot degrade the human person. So if you look at what I've just cited in the Penal Code, Section 55, subsection 1, it actually affects the provision of even the grundam, which is the Constitution. So how do we begin to address that? Enlightenment. How do we begin to address those issues? We keep talking about it. We keep getting the persons who are concerned and in the ends of affairs to see the need to unify these laws.
All right. Ife, are you there now? Can you hear me?
Yes, please.
All right. So with all that you've shared thus far on the Nigerian laws in both Section 357 of the Criminal Code and Section 282 of the Penal Code, you know, a husband cannot be charged with marital rape. Once the marriage is subsisting and the wife has attained puberty, then any sexual intercourse with her is never a rape. So should we be arguing about why we are yet to accept that, or there can be marital rape, or is there a form of the law that can give room for domestic violence?
Thank you so much for the question. I return back to the VAP Act. Section 1 of the VAP Act, subsection 1, defines rape. And I'm so glad that the Act was able to elaborate and expatiate the meaning of rape. Beyond the normal meaning that we have accorded to rape, the VAP Act was able to expand and expatiate and made us to understand that beyond just the normal meaning of rape, we have extended meanings of this particular act. Now, looking at the section you've quoted in the Criminal Code and the Penal Code, respectively, Section 351 and Section 282, a man cannot be charged for rape. I mean, rape of their partner. Now, we've gone way beyond that. If you look at global best practices, you look at other laws that are tailored towards gender-based violence and such, we have come to a point in the global system, in the world generally, where you can be charged for raping your wife, as a matter of fact. Where consent, I mean, it's very important. The element of rape here, or the element of proving the crime of rape, to a large extent boils down to consent. So where consent has not been gotten, where consent is not expressly given, you cannot say you have not committed the offense of rape. And in the case of spouses, for instance, a lot of factors can actually lead to the conclusion that rape has been committed even when persons are married. Because, I mean, there can be an existing marriage with multiple other issues, multiple other conflicts that has brought about disunity between the couple. And at that point, I mean, when there is already an existing crisis, for instance, and we don't have a situation where the couple, the wife, as the case may be, has left the physical confines of the husband, or the physical space where the husband is as well, and the husband forcefully decides to have sex with that woman, that can be construed to be rape.
Because my own concern would be in the case of a woman being charged for rape, because the Constitution and its definition of rape, tying it down to penetration, where there is a penetration, when we all do know that a woman cannot penetrate a man. And so if the Constitution stipulates or defines rape as an act of forceful penetration without consent, and it is assumed that that Constitution is focusing on the act being perpetrated by the man. But what of in the case of rape being carried out on a man by a woman, and there isn't a forceful penetration and consent wasn't given? What is your organization doing to see that it is elaborated beyond penetration?
Thank you very much for the question. The VAP Act, I'll make mention of the VAP Act multiple times during the course of this discussion, because the VAP Act has come to put a lot of clarity and has come to expand the meaning of the word rape as a form. Let's be guided that rape alone in itself is not the only form of sexual gender-based violence. There are a lot of other forms of violence meted against persons generally, but especially women who are more at risk and who suffer greater consequences from the results of this occurrence. So I'll go back to the VAP Act. You've just talked about the limited nature of the Constitution in defining rape, and in a manner streamlining the definition of rape, and therefore the commission of that offense to be male-related more than it is female-related. So I take you back to Section 1, subsection 1 of the VAP Act. Now, the VAP Act expanded the meaning of rape. So penetration is not where it ends. It makes provision for oral sex, for instance. It makes provision for any form of touching, any form of activity that is sexual oriented in nature that defies the integrity of the person. Remember, the VAP Act is called the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Act. So persons in the instance do not refer only to women. It cuts across the human race. So we're talking about both the male gender and females alike. So in answering your question specifically, a woman could be charged for rape if the properties that should be proven that rape has happened can be proven in that instance, especially because of the wider concept and the wider definition that the VAP Act has given to rape in itself. Well, let me reiterate.
Submission, Ifedolapo. Thus far, I think I like all your brilliant submission. But, I had a recent interview, and it was about the role of journalists and media practitioners in ensuring that victims of domestic violence get justice. The truth is that we have taken up the work of the law by doing investigative journalism to follow up on stories that are yet to gain justice. So, for instance, let me use Oshinachi's case, the Bamishele Anyowole case as well, and so many other cases. What would you have done when it comes to the media, or what advice will you give to the media in terms of doing more to help against domestic violence?
The media has been absolutely wonderful and brilliant in its approach to bringing some of these issues to light. And I cannot be more proud than for the media at this time in our society and in our nation, Nigeria. I like the fact that the media has a voice and has the power to continue to enlighten and to bring to the fore the issues that we're dealing with as a people generally, gender-based violence inclusive. We saw a widespread, we saw the media agog, we saw social media, we saw TV stations, we saw YouTube channels, we saw literally every sphere of the social media and the media generally talking about, for instance, Osinachi's passing. That got to a lot of people very personally, if you ask me. And the media brought to light some of the things that sexual-based violent victims or violence victims are going through and are not talking about. I was opportune to read a story about somebody on social media who said, I quote her now, not verbatim though, I was bold to take a step to not get married to the person I intended to get married to, having seen what Osinachi went through. So this explains that the role of the media cannot be underestimated and cannot be overemphasized. The media continues to shine the light and should continue to shine the light on all such gray areas that continues to be a menace to the society that we live in called Nigeria, and issues as sensitive as this. I know that there can be a flip side to that. To a large extent, a lot of people don't want their stories out there. A lot of people don't want to have to be in the news. A lot of people victims now specifically, don't want to have to be referenced as, case studies and all of that. But the work the media is doing at the moment, to the best of my understanding, is bringing more good than harm, if you ask me, in espousing, in explaining, in bringing to light the issues that we're dealing with and that are eating the society down, and the media should actually continue. All right,
Ifedolapo, we'll go on a quick break and get a word from our sponsors. Please stay with us. We'll be right back.
Okay. Thank
you. I used to care for the world's opinion. I used to fear their rejection. I used to beg for validation. And I used to wait to be seen. But the fire that burned in me was hotter. And the passion that lived in me had a voice of its own. So I stopped waiting and started to act. I stopped fearing and started to live. And when they thought I'd fail, I stepped into my power.
Because my time is now.
I'm still Malta. Be your best.
All right, glad to know you're still with us. In case you just joined the show, today's conversation is about domestic violence in general, and we have been looking at some series of cases where by victims have been, have gained justice despite the enactment of the Violence of Persons Prohibition Act during the administration of President Goodluck Jonathan. And with us in the studio now from our Abuja studio, giving us real talk, is a corporate lawyer, business and corporate legal practitioner, Ifedolapo Oladimeji, a partner with Posec Associates as well. Many thanks for all your submission thus far. But before we go further, let me quickly open our phone lines. Remember, you can be part of this conversation by calling the studio numbers 00988774400 showing on your screen right now. And of course, we're streaming live on Facebook and YouTube page on Silverbird platform and on Real Talk with Kike platform. Ifedolapo, with all that you've shared thus far, one challenge with our justice system is the fact that justice takes too long. It takes forever. There are many cases still awaiting trial, many victims of domestic violence still awaiting justice. My question to you now as a lawyer, what is our system doing to, expedite judgments?
It's very sad to note, quite frankly, that the Nigerian justice system has not done enough to assist in its capacity as a legal justice system to see to the reduction to a very large extent of gender-based violence in Nigeria. We see cases of persons who actually reluctant to even report these cases, especially because they're not even sure that they would get justice, and even when they're persuaded to go that far, they're not sure justice will come to them, quickly. I'm of the opinion that, justice denied for such a long time sometimes can be justice. Justice delayed for such a long time, pardon me, sometimes can be justice denied. And I'm not really pleased with what the justice system is doing to make sure that domestic violence victim gets justice in good time, in record time. A lot can be done to change this. For instance, in India, we see where to curb this menace, India had to go beyond just coming up with legislative procedures and laws to setting up specific courts. In this instance, I can call them gender-based violence courts, if you like. Specific courts designated and designed to hear only gender-based violence cases. On fast track, in Nigeria today, we have dedicated courts that hear AMCON cases, for instance, Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria. You file cases to AMCON designated judges. It is possible to do this for victims of sexual-based violence as well. These are some of the ways that we can ensure that justice comes to these victims speedily. You cannot afford to file sensitive cases like this in regular courts, where adjournments and adjournments and adjournments will lead to wearing out, even of the victims themselves. I mean, it takes a whole lot of boldness to have victims come on to talk about their experiences. And then it takes another step of boldness to have victims want to file cases in courts officially, report these cases. So we're looking at a total revamping of this justice system as far as gender-based violence is concerned and addressing the issue legally. So it's not been encouraging. It's not been encouraging to have to file a matter in court and have to wait for the matter to be assigned. And then after it is assigned, you have to wait for a date to be given. And after the date is given, you have to wait for it to be heard. And after it is heard, of course, you have to wait for multiple adjournments, before you get to a point of justice. This can wear out. We're talking about psychological. We're talking about mental violence that have gone on beyond the physical violence that some of these victims may have faced. So in any way possible and in every way possible, the justice system should be seen to encourage speedy dispensation of justice.
How can, the legal system help out in seeing that the aspect of victimization of rape victims, the aspect of, you know, trying to stigmatize them, especially coming from those who should be showing care to them. For instance, a girl is raped, she goes to the police station and she says she's raped. The usual report we get is the personnel at the police division would start asking, what did you wear? How did you tempt this person? And start questioning the person, making the person feel like he or she, rather than being the victim, is the person who is actually the perpetrator of the crime. How can we begin to, you know, criminalize such people? Maybe sort of aiding and abetting, if there can be an extension of the law on them.
Thank you very much. My reference today, to a large extent, is the VAP Act. And I'm proud to say that the VAP Act gives instances where persons can be charged for aiding and abetting issues of rape and generally sexual and gender-based violence against their victims. We must have a reorientation, if you like. The mindset has to shift from the victims to the perpetrators. We have imbibed a system that blames the victims. You cannot blame the victim of rape or any form of sexual, gender-based violence for that matter. As long as you've established the fact that they are the victim, the society must learn to shift the attention from the victim to the perpetrators. And you cannot do this with the same culture and the same system that already blames victims of sexual and gender-based violence. So we start by reforming. We start by putting the right set of people in the right places. For instance, from the police station. We should have a response, for instance, from the police station, designated and dedicated to welcoming, receiving victims of sexual-based violence in the slightest degree. Not even rape, in the slightest of degrees, to begin with, touching, unwholesome beating, right? We should start by having this set of individuals with a refined mindset in designated places to begin to receive those people and begin to tell them the right things and begin to address their issues with a lot of empathy and genuine concern. And we move from that all the way to even the courts, to support groups, for instance. So we have to have like a total reorientation. We have to have set of persons and people who are not just working to be paid, but are devoted and dedicated to assisting the society be rid of this menace. So it starts all the way from, like you said, the police station, having the right units, informed individuals, enlightened people who are empathetic to receive victims of any form of violence for that matter, male or female, gender irrespective, receive them and take them through the process, one step at a time. This encourages, of course, reporting. This encourages talking about it. This encourages the fact that a person, even though has been a victim, can get some respite from the system that frowns against what he or she has gone through. So I say to that question, a reorientation totally.
All right, reorientation, I get you. You know, we're running out of time right now. You have provided pro bono services to victims and even undeserved inmates in prison with all that you have shared thus far. But I must ask you quickly, you have also advocated for the congestion of prison cells. Tell us more a little about it in 1 minute, if you can, before we wrap up the segment.
Thank you very much. Our prisons across the country, I would speak specifically with respect to the Federal Capital Territory, where we have the Kuje, the Suleja prisons, so are seriously congested. We have persons who have been awaiting trial for as long as you can you can think of. Women alike, sometimes women who are even pregnant, and we were working towards the objective of trying as much as possible to decongest these prisons by providing pro bono services to persons who are indigent and cannot afford legal services, so that with or without paying for these legal services, lawyers and law firms, individuals who are passionate about entrenching justice in the system can approach these persons in prison, talk to them, get details of what it is that they are being charged for, and begin to file the necessary papers in courts to ensure that their matters are heard and, justice is dispensed as quickly as possible, and they can be reintegrated back into the society to continue their lives. So that's basically what the objective of prison decongestion is about. Might I add that a lot of times we even have persons in prisons that are not supposed to be there by virtue of the kind of crime that they've committed. Some of the crimes do not even allow for them to be in prisons for as long as they've been there. So the objective is to try as much as possible to get them pro bono services that would allow for them to assess justice and be back into the society and get on with their lives again.
It's been an interesting time with you, Oladimeji, Oladimeji. Many thanks for being on our lunch talk show this afternoon. But before we let you go, let's discuss some of the trending stories that affect us. My co-host, my friend Masha, would like to call it stories that interest us all. And the first trending story that caught our attention is that of Atanda-Owo's litigation case. Let me call it like that, litigation case. Dami, let me come to you quickly. What's your take on this trending story before I come to Ifedolapo?
Her case on saying that she actually had, I think there are a lot of things that we do not pay cognizance to and we don't pay keen attention to. She's come out to say she has mental issues. As much as everybody has one mental stress or the other that we are facing, but some people are more peculiar and need expedient attention than the others, because somebody who's come out to tell you that, you know what, I have mental issues, you do not know what she's dealing with, and the next thing you might hear, I do not wish it for her, is that probably she committed suicide. Then we begin to run kitty like, oh, she would have spoken out. When she said it now, we thought it was a joke. It seems like a joke until reality begins to fall on us. So I beg Nigerians, it's not for us to just, everybody has issues. It's not for us to just close our eyes and close our ears at the same time. Let us begin to pay keen attention to things. If whatever case she must have had litigation because she was paid money and she couldn't attend, what if she came to your location set and she went bonkers? Are you going to litigate somebody who is going to take a bed space in Yabatek or in a psychiatric home? No. So I think there are alternative dispute resolutions that we can explore to know, okay, what, you're owing us XYZ, when are we going to pay back? But we should pay attention to things when people come out to say for themselves that they are facing mental issues. All right, fantastic submission, Damilola Banire. First off, I think I want to start from a place of empathy. I empathize with her on the loss of our daughter first, a child, our only child. Let me emphasize on
Adult
that. Child.
And I feel that, may God be with her. May God continue to be with her and comfort her and extended family. I have met her physically, and this is a woman I can categorically tell you that she's a wonderful woman. She's an hardworking woman. Let me emphasize on that, hardworking woman. Not many of us can handle such a tragedy, and I'm sure that some would even nurse it and never recover from it for the rest of their lives. For her to come out and speak about her mental illness and I feel that she has taken a great courage to come out, because we live in a society where stigmatization is what takes the center stage when you come out to talk about some of your challenges today. And she's really a fighter, if you ask me, and a very courageous one at that. I salute her for her courage again. Again, many who do not even understand the audience pen. Why am I using the word audience pen? Because she's an artist. Many do not understand what it means to have a great support system. And again, many also do not understand when a woman speaks and before she can come out to speak, she has been pushed to the wall. She has gotten to the end of some of the challenges that she's going through. Either Either at times when people don't speak, they go mad. Yes. Even at times they commit, they attempt suicide, just like you've emphasized. We need to be more sensitive to people in this part of the world, knowing that we're in a world where mental health is not really paid attention to. I'm a trainer, and I know that when it comes to emotional intelligence, this is where, you know, I feel that most organizations are shying away from. I feel that the cost of lives, we've seen the likes of the 70-year-old lady, the accountant from Glow, that killed herself 2 weeks ago. A lot of that have been swept under the carpet, because that is the culture that we have embraced today. When things happen to people, people make noise about it for a few minutes, and the next thing they say, who is next? Many may want to argue that when she knows that she isn't even mentally okay, we do not even, you know, for her to even decide to say she wants to take up a job, I say again, I salute her courage. The question I'm asking people today: how many people can free themselves in this part of the world with all the inflation that is going on? You know, I also want to ask people, what would you attend to when you hear that people are going through financial and economic needs? Because everybody have one challenges or the other, however we look at it. And this is a country where we don't pay attention to pension. Yes, nobody has a pension scheme that is well organized or that is well explained, let me put it like that, for lack of a better word right now. So I'm asking, how many people again can say that they've collected or they've collected government salary? Some people are still right there in some states where they are yet to receive their salary. So what's my argument today? So I urge the company taking up a case against her to have some reconsideration and also understand that we should make excuses for her, not because she has lost her daughter, because this is a woman who has continued to say, I will continue to strive, I will continue to you know, make ends meet. And sometimes people throw themselves into work when you are going through challenges. People do not understand that. You see people smiling on the road, it is because they are throwing themselves to work because they are trying to forget a pain. So can we understand that she is resilient enough to want to work? She is resilient enough to be productive to our community and to our environment. Let's give her some credit. I also want to use this medium to call on those who can help her in terms of, I would like to say, psychotherapists. You know, yes, we really do not pay attention to things like that. But I feel that the wokeness in our environment today, when it comes to politics, we also need to rise to understand that there's mental challenges that is going on across the state, and especially with all that is happening at the moment. I pray for her. I pray may God bless her, may God be with her. Quickly, Masha, what's your take on this?
Honestly, the mental pressure, Kike, you have brought on this table will not permit me to even say anything. You've really
just expatiated everything.
And I think if I'd say anything, it will water down the force with which you have driven home your points. And I totally stand behind all that you've said. All
right, many thanks for that. Quickly, because of time, I don't want them to start running commentary in my ears. The second trending story, I'll come to you first, Ifedolapo, Oladimeji. And the second trending story that caught our attention is that of the comedian Okon, who said that vote selling is the... But let's take a quick look at this video and we'll come back to our submission. Stay with us.
You see all this, don't sell your vote, don't sell your vote. Huh? All those don't sell your vote no concern me, because I have my PVC and I will sell my vote. I'll sell it at the right price. Yes, at the right price. A very considerate and generous price, because of you know, most of all these politicians, when they come to buy votes, they will just appear in your life once in every 4 years and come and buy your vote in the polling unit and then disappear and come again in the next election year after 4 years. So, my vote I am going to sell, I will sell it payday.
Ifedolapo, let me come to you. Did you see this trending video? What's your take on this quickly?
Quite frankly, there are a lot of things we joke about in this country, and it makes for sometimes us not being taken very seriously. That could be construed to be a joke, but the gravity of the subjects being talked about, vote selling, I mean, at this point in time, a public figure a comedian, one with a large following, if you have anything to say whatsoever, so the members of the public, to your fans, generally across the globe, it should be direct. Your message should be unambiguous. It should be clear what you're telling people to do, because a lot of times it could be misconstrued. I want to think he's only joking for the trends, but I mean, you could pass across a wrong message and you could lead a wrong movement. So my take is, be very sensitive with the things you play about. We should be taking things a bit more seriously in this country and in this climate.
Oladimeji had said she has mental issues. You know, at least she is coming out to say her own. So many others, like Dami said, will not come out to say their own.
Absolutely.
It's only in their work of art that you begin to see it. I wouldn't know whether I will attribute some level of mental illness to this one, because like our guest has said, I mean, it's a very sensitive time and issue for us to, you know, turn this transitional period into a joke, you know. So I wouldn't know what he's passing through right now that would make him, you know, take to that line of action. All right. It is no joke.
All right, Marshall, you know, many thanks again, Ifedolapo and Marshall, for your submission. There are many things that we don't joke about, just like Ifedolapo have emphasized alongside with them. Most especially when it comes to affairs that affect, that deals with the lives of over 200 million people, and their conditions for the next 4 years is not guaranteed. We are talking about the next election, 2023. I pray that the next election, we do not have to come to this place and lament again. I pray that after 2023, things begin to work in our country. It may seem like a joke to some people, because one thing about social media is that we should take into inadequacy and I'm like, what's the word, that subconscious people that begin to normalize sensational news. They begin to normalize trends and it goes viral. This is not just the time for us to traumatize and normalize votes, you know, in terms of buying, in terms of rigging, you know, in terms of vote selling, you know, no amounts of money, let me emphasize, that might want to pay us with equal or justify the conditions of over 200 million people for the next 4 years. So I'm asking, what kind of generation are we that we have forgotten our conscience? What kind of a generation are we that what we think about first is what trends because of social media? You know, we are living in social media is now becoming a life that has been normalized into a reality. And I feel that the current challenges in Nigeria, some experts say that it has even taken backwards before independence. And I'm asking myself, if we listened to the messages that was shared globally, and also listening to our president, you will wish, you will pray that, you know, things beginning to work better for us. How would we want an entertainer want to come out and joke about bad leadership? That is how I look at it. How can you come out to come and talk about bad leadership, coming from a place of power, and all this for the sake of money? So to all those who say that voting is not important, let me excuse you. You are also voting indirectly. For those who do not come out and vote, indirectly you are voted, because that is also in the Constitution. So I'm asking, when do we want to do the right thing? Can people understand that your vote counts, and you not coming out is totally wrong? We must register our civic responsibilities. This is not the time to joke about our vote selling or vote buying. This is not right. The power and the privilege of over 200 people lies sometimes, I must emphasize, in the hands of these entertainers, Marshall. And I feel that they must understand the role they play, especially with the youth of today that looks up to them. I hope that with all that we have shared today, some people will listen and do the right thing and come out in 2023 and make sure that we put the right person into power. With that, we've come to the end of another interesting episode of Real Talk with Kike. So we'll come away next week. Remember to be kind to your neighbor, and of course to our resourceful guest, Ifedolapo Oladimeji, many thanks for sharing all your submission, and to my co-host, you guys have been fantastic everywhere. Love you both.
For a minute there, I thought she was the lawyer and not Ifedolapo.
All right, take care.
Be good and be patriotic.